Hello fellow unicorns and welcome to another video, and today we have a Valentine's Joker and Harley video, but most of all a video about how I messed every single piece of this art, and yet I have managed to make it look good and fix the mistakes. So I'll be focusing on this part. Of course, happy Valentine's Day to everybody, and if you're into that sort of thing, I wish you all the best. If you're not, just remember that Harley and Joker are the most abusive relationship and that they shouldn't be a parameter for a quality relationship. That's like a PSA from me. Anyways, let's talk about this piece. I have managed to destroy it completely. I was literally freaking out during the entire drawing of this piece because I kind of miscalculated all of my tools, and you will be seeing shortly how I managed to rip off entire sections of my line art, including the entire sections of my paper. This happened because I managed to put the masking fluid in too thick of a layer, and it would have been fine if my paper was thick enough, but no, I kind of like use this paper that I usually use when I do Copics, like it's a habit, and then I just grabbed that piece of paper and was like, whatever I can do on this one, you know. And I completely forgot that I was intending on doing more complex artwork. I completely forgot that I was doing watercolors and that this paper can't handle thick layers of water. So yeah, as you can see, I literally started freaking out, like panicking, like getting all of these layers off. I was pulling them by using my fingers, because if I was rubbing them off, that would damage the paper even more. So I had to go down the route of lesser evil. And the next step of everything, like after panicking, is panicking stage 2, when I try to do the line art. Well, try to redo the line art, but when you use a thick marker over the raggedy edges of torn paper, you will definitely find out that the line art itself will start being raggedy as well. So I wanted to let the colors dry and just try to carefully peel off the washi tape. Sadly, this particular washi tape was bought in Tiger, which is like a dollar store, and this particular tape started ripping off even more paper. So I was literally out of my mind. At this point, I didn't know if I was able to even salvage this piece, but still, since I have a lot of experience as a teacher and an illustrator, I wanted to have this as an opportunity, as a challenge to myself, to be able to fix this in front of cameras and show you guys that you can salvage any type of mistake or error. Ultimately, if you do too much of messing up, you can just redraw everything on a new piece of paper. You can literally trace your own line art and just transfer it to a fresh, thicker piece of paper. I wanted to avoid this because I spent a lot of time doing this line art, and I just wanted this original line art to be for my commissioned person. So I just wanted to do as much as I can to make this piece as successful as possible. So what I did next was trying to fix this horribly ripped line art on the ripped. You can see, like, even there are pieces of paper ripped open, like dangling, like little bits. So that additionally freaked me out because I felt like they could rip a hole open in the paper any moment. But yeah, I kept my cool and I started using different tools to fix details. For example, the little white areas that were left with by the masking tape, I tried covering up with some additional ink. Then I used a trick I use often, and that is making certain parts of the line art thicker so that those parts of the line art get emphasized more. This is a simple trick. You can just do it on any area that's either like too damaged, or fill out black areas, or make sure that some parts that are like outside of the drawing and the lines are too thin, maybe you can use the thicker lines on those areas. And I did use some thinner fine liner to fill in the more delicate lines, because I didn't want to use the thick lines, because you can see that the thick lines ended up looking too raggedy and bleeding all over the place. I used some of the additional green ink to fill out some areas. So the next stage of salvaging this art piece went into the art form known as minimalism. I realized that the only way I can save this piece is by saving the line arts first and trying to refill them as much as I could. Then I used highly saturated watercolors to fill out the areas of the characters without any cell shading, or maybe minimal cell shading. This way you can fill out the areas where the paper was torn and just use the watercolor texture to fill over the texture of ripped paper. This will give your art some sort of more artsy look and more minimalistic and yet texturized look. So when you change a style abruptly, it can save your art piece if you have messed up as much as I have in this piece. But actually, to be perfectly honest, this piece ended up looking like so good. I'm so proud of it, because I actually have these errors in judgment to thank for the piece looking as magnificent, because I really love minimalism and I don't do it as much. So when you have a strong line art and do minimalistic and even like flat colors, sometimes it can look fabulous. And I really do like that I have managed to create a background by using a gradient. For the gradient, I have used the Dr. P.H. Martin's luminous inks, and they just blend perfectly, and I just had to use them as a gradient for the background. So even though the half of my paper got ripped, actually this entire shape behind Harley and Joker ended up looking really well. And even though that the paper is too thin to receive certain watercolor types, I used that texture I got from the super thin paper just to make this additional minimalistic and yet texturized effect. Definitely I didn't want to use too much of cell shading or any kind of shading. I just filled out the Joker's suit, I filled out Harley's suit, and I don't really think I did too much of shading except on their faces, because they both have white paint all across their skin. Well, Harley paints her skin. Joker's skin is actually white because he got that dip in the pool of acid. That's how the story goes. So I wanted to use the leftover of the purple color to just shade some parts of the white areas, like their faces, and white details on Harley's collar, maybe some cards. And I just wanted to keep it extremely simple. The piece still didn't like look as well as I wanted it to. I still got some freaking out going on, so I just wanted to end up filling all of the areas, and then go and see how else can I salvage this piece without like ruining it or going into too much details. So I ruined the minimalism. Of course, my trusty, beautiful, wonderful white gel pen came perfectly on time to the rescue, and this is the finishing touch that ended up creating this piece into one of my best looking pieces ever, because I used certain edges and places I was insecure about, and just fill them like fill their edges with white gel pen. I left Harley's whited out edges as well, because I wanted her to have this fake leather look in her outfit, and just this entire minimalism ended up looking quite satisfactory to me. And when we add some half translucent white paint to certain details, I think the effect is complete. And this is just a trick that anyone can use because white gel pens are so cheap and so available everywhere, like online, in your local art supply store. So I recommend using them for any time when you mess up or you are in a pinch. And this definitely ended up looking like something I will most probably use like a print or something if the original commissioner allows it. So thank you, Edward, for this amazing piece and idea. And again, happy Valentine's. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you would like to learn how to draw manga, please check out my book Manga Crash Course, available in 4 different languages, as well as my latest book Manga Crash Course Fantasy.